Peace on earth. This is your boy Hayes Reed, aka Gemini Moon, the Star Seed Healer, your host for the Wake Up Call podcast, coming at you guys with another episode of the Wake Up Call. This video, we're going to be talking about Kim Kardashian and the release of the Oxygen show that she put together called Kim Kardashian West, The Justice Project. Now, I tuned in last night. The show aired last night on Oxygen at 7 o'clock, and it ran for 2 hours from 7 to 9 o'clock. And it basically showcased Kim Kardashian and her plight to becoming a lawyer and to push her initiative of prison reform. In the documentary, in the show, she openly spoke to members and people who were imprisoned, and just basically showcased her journey of advocating for prison reform. And it showed her with her legal team, her mentors, and those who had partnered with her. And we basically got to see up close and personal her interaction with these inmates and those who had been a part of the prison system. We got to hear a lot of different personal stories from different people. And most of these people leaned to the demographic of middle-aged Black men. And I thought that was very, very, very interesting and very, very deliberate as well, but also just very, very strong. I thought it was a very, very strong just catalog for what it was that was being presented. I love the way that it was presented. And I'm going to go ahead and read something from Variety.com. Variety is a magazine and a very, very credible source who wrote up a TV review for Kim Kardashian West, The Justice Project. This article is written by Daniel D. Ardario, and it reads as follows. Kim Kardashian West's vision of justice is, to her, common sense. The star has undergone an extensive rebrand, announcing in Vogue cover story last year that she was working towards becoming a lawyer after successfully petitioning President Trump for clemency in the case of Alice Johnson, a nonviolent offender sentenced to life in prison. This coming into consciousness is now the subject of the feature-length documentary Kim Kardashian West, The Justice Project, on which the subject describes becoming aware of Johnson's case. I knew nothing about the system at all, for just that I know what feels in my heart and what doesn't. Kim Kardashian West says. Later, she tells a group of prisoners assembled to listen to her speak. I just saw something that seemed really unfair to me, and I thought that I had a voice. She does indeed have a voice, one that tends less to cut through cultural noise than to create it. This documentary converts into unpleasant spectacle what was always implicit in the star's legal project, that, for her, reform of a system that causes chaos in the lives of so many, particularly of Black Americans, comes in the package of the beneficent gift of individual attention to telegenic and unthreatening cases rather than reform. Leaving aside that in any other historical moment, Kardashian West would not have the president's ear. It's obviously not sustainable to alleviate the mass crowding of America's prisons solely by appealing for clemency for specific prisoners. And this documentary isn't really suggesting that either, or about much more than the need to pivot a brand, that of the entertainer and her famous family, that wasn't previously built to withstand times of crisis. In boom times, one may recall they were businesswomen, quote unquote, first. The documentary's title says it all. Justice is a part of the whole endeavor, but Kim Kardashian West comes first. So this is the article. I didn't read the whole thing, written by Daniel Diardario. And, I think that this review definitely does the documentary some justice as far as describing how she approached this. It is called Kim Kardashian West, the Justice Project. You know what I'm saying? But I want to discuss this. Me personally, I enjoyed the project. I loved the documentary. I was really, really moved by Kim's willingness to put aside some of her own personal bias in really hearing out the stories of some of these victims. Some of you may know about Alice Johnson, who was convicted for drug trafficking years ago and who spent 22 years in prison. And Kim Kardashian went ahead and went to the president, Donald Trump, and asked for clemency in favor of Alice Johnson. So Johnson was convicted in 1996 for her involvement in a Memphis cocaine trafficking organization and sentenced to life imprisonment. You know what I mean? So these are the cases that Kim is taking under her belt. We know that Kim is studying to become a lawyer. We know that she's not going to regular traditional school. She's taking another avenue, which seems to be very credible. She's going through Van Jones's firm and doing a apprenticeship where she is being tested, and she's having to go through pretty much the same process as any law student. But in this regard, she's able to do it a different way, because of she has money and the connections she has, and but it seems to be legitimate. So in discussing this project, taking all those things into consideration can help us to have a whole view of this. She did, in the documentary, it was included, the statistics of Black men to white men who experience any encounter with the prison system, the justice system. And, she did highlight very boldly that 1 in 3 Black men, as opposed to 1 out of every 17 Black men, will end up in prison. And, she expressed her concerns and basically stated that that there is a mass incarceration problem in the United States of America. And I think that this is so interesting to see, from Kim, because, we all know where Kim started out. We know her story. We know how the world was introduced to her. And so taking that into account, we think about all of the many setbacks in her life, because I think that, a lot of people have and will judge, based off of the fact that, there is the history of her family, keeping up with the Kardashians and the whole brand that she's created for herself. This, in many people's regard and opinion, can be taken, out of context completely. It could be taken many different ways. It could be taken, that, why is she doing this? Why does she want to become a lawyer? Wasn't she people will bring up the sex tape. People will bring all those things. And I think that people, of course, and have every right to say what they're going to say. But to me, this was really remarkable to see her do. Many people may not know, but her father, Robert Kardashian, was a lawyer. And actually, he presided over the defense of O.J. Simpson. He defended O.J. Simpson in the O.J. Simpson case. And, the history behind that. So it's just a lot that comes into play, when you're looking at this documentary. um the cases and the type of people that she was advocating for, very, very moving cases, and I believe that Kim was very, very moved. I want to highlight her humanity and just the overall impact I think this is going to have. The fact that she is bringing some type of awareness about the disproportionate disproportionate ratio of African American men as compared to other races of men and women who are imprisoned and have to all usually get the shorter end of the justice stick, if you will. She highlights cases and stories that really, if they had been looked into in the right way, if the history behind some of these cases, the history behind some of the convictions of these people, that maybe they would not have had such a harsh sentencing. Most of the cases that she takes on are people of African American descent. This is significant because she's shining a light. She's helping to truly help us and help people who find themselves affected by this type of system, to help find clarity and bring some type of more core awareness to how we administer justice. In the beginning, she states that she was not open to dealing or advocating or trying to get clemency, which means mercy, for any cases that involved any type of violent offense. But when she started to go deeper, read these people's letters, and really, really see and look into the circumstances that brought them to make these decisions, whether it was some type of violent offense like murder or anything like that, where there was any assault or physical violence, her heart opened up and she started to see that these people needed mercy, that these people were human beings, and she found it in her heart to learn more. And so I'm bringing up all these things because I believe that it's important, for the human spirit to rise up in compassion. And I see this woman doing that. I thought that the project was very, very well put together. I think that she's bringing a lot of awareness to something that needs to be addressed, that should have been addressed, that has been in recent years in the effect of being addressed. And who can really bring and cause awareness like this besides Kim Kardashian? She's one of the top celebrity figures that we have in the world. And the fact that she would open up her heart to be used like this really, really speaks volumes to her growth as a human being, as a person, as someone who really, really does care about humanity. And even looking at from where she's come from, I think that this is a journey for her, just personally reforming her way of branding herself. We see where she's come from, and we see that people have a right to change. People should be given the benefit of due process, not just in the court system, but just in life, period. You never know until you ask and talk to these people what led them to make the decisions that they've made. And, you know, I see a woman who has grown. I see a woman who really, really is being used for a higher calling, you know, someone who's being, you know, because we can look at her history as a person, you know, and we can make judgments based off of that. But then we would have to look at the fact that, you know, she's married to Kanye West, a black man, and she has black children, you know, who, in some way, shape, or form will have to one day come against or confront some type of racial or biased judgment in this world, you know? And so I think that, you know, people forget, even in this regard, if I bring in Kanye West, you know, the fact that, you know, Kanye West has always talked about the disproportionate ratio and numbers and statistics of black men who have been wronged by the justice system and imprisoned. You know, this is a man who's conscious, aware of his community and the struggles that they go through. So how could Kim not be aware? You know, how could she not be aware? You know, I think that the documentary was great. She really helped to showcase real stories and helped to really change the perception of how we look at this criminal system, you know. And so she's making a move for criminal, not just prison reform, but even just criminal reform, you know. Prison reform, though, mostly. I can't say criminal reform because that would be based on, you know, the one-on-one interaction of so yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take that back, because at the same time, not only is it prison reform, but it is criminal reform at the same time. I mean, her branding is about pushing prison reform, but at the end of the day, this is going to, and this is a prediction, make way for us to see people that we call criminals in a different way, make us see and change the law and the blueprint of how we subjugate people to this system of due process. You know, there were certain people in this documentary, you know, who had been imprisoned who had been given life sentences for murder, but their background showed trauma. You know, there was one woman who had been convicted of murder for murdering her step grandfather, who touched her inappropriately. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, it's not that maybe she didn't deserve some time, but look at the circumstances that led up to that. She was touched inappropriately, basically had been raped all her life from 5 years old up until she was 20 by multiple family members. So think about that, you know, and Kim Kardashian really, really put it out there and really, really made sure that was documented and told and highlighted. So I was really, really proud of the documentary. I think that this is the next step in the evolution of our perception as human beings. And I, you know, strongly recommend that everyone check it out. Check out the documentary. Tell me what you think about it. Take notes and really, really start to just open your mind, open up your heart to, you know, the possibility that, you know, people can change and that people grow and people should be given the space to grow, you know. You know, I definitely, this is something I obviously feel strong about. I obviously feel strong about justice and that people be given just and fair treatment. You know, and always go into things with an open heart and an open mind. You know, I think that was just the biggest thing that I took away from it and that I wanted to reiterate, is that you never know what it's like to be someone unless you're in their shoes, you know, and there's a lot of people who are imprisoned right now, particularly black men, you know, and black women and Hispanic men and women who have been imprisoned for, you know, things like selling drugs or, you know, trafficking drugs, illegal drugs and substances and things like that. And a lot of these people were just working to take care of their families, and they had no other way. At the moment, in that space and time, within the environment and the times that they were presented with, they had no other way. They had no other way. Trauma and family trauma and disparity is real. We cannot ignore it. It's not something that we can ignore. Yes, so people need to do time, but the time should not be punishment. It should be rehabilitative, and about healing, and I really, really, really just suggest everyone watch it. I know I stumbled on some words, I was really trying to work out how to present this, and, I think I got really excited, but yeah, this is something that I'm excited about. I stand with Kim Kardashian. I stand with the Justice Project. I stand for her prison reform, and I hope that you guys can all find the time and the space in your heart to, become a part of this, and just open up your mind and become more involved, and, take some time to really, really reflect on this. So I want to say again, peace on earth, peace to everyone during this time of quarantine. This is the Wake Up Call podcast. This is your host, Hayes Reed, aka Gemini Moon, the Starseed Healer. Peace.